Welcome to today's Quinoa coaching episode, everybody. I'm really excited to have Peter Norton with us today. He's a peak performance coach. So, Peter, how are you doing?
I'm very well, Marie. Thank you for having me today.
So I'm really interested in not only what you do, but your journey to get where you are. Do you want to give people a kind of brief about what you do and how you got there?
Absolutely, surely. So basically, there's many business owners and entrepreneurs out there in the world, and they've got into business for time freedom and to make a change in the world, and they find that they go into chaos and overwhelm and challenge. So what we do is we take them from that apparent chaos and get them into a state of calmness and certainty and presence, and we get them to supercharge their energy. So basically, they don't have those crashes in the afternoon. They get home more energized than they were when they started, and creates better connections and relationships in their life. So basically, they get mental clarity and they live with purpose. So that's what our program does.
So this is what kind of caught my attention, really, because how can you kind of be energized at the end of a day when you're an entrepreneur and you're completely overwhelmed and you're doing accounting and contracts and marketing and you're up early and you're doing everything, and then by the end of the day you just think, oh my goodness, I can't do anymore. How can we kind of, because it seems like magic to me, how does this work?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. It seems like that, and that's the thing where I spoke about the apparent chaos in their lives. So they're basically, and a lot of people go through it, including myself. So this is stemmed from my own experiences and in implementing these strategies myself. But basically, we get into our sympathetic nervous system, which is basically our fight or flight, and continually living in that. And so over time, there's a compounding effect of habits that are created to survive through this volatile experience of business. And so what we're able to do is get them to tap back into parasympathetic by certain methods and techniques, typically around breath work and also nutrition, and getting their circadian rhythms and their sleep patterns back in check, and really getting spot on with the nourishment they're putting into their bodies. So collectively, we find that these people who are living in an overactive sympathetic nervous system, that their habits and their tendencies to move towards, at times, instant gratification or addictive behaviors and eating poor choices of food, and that compounds over time. And then they do shallow breathing and they get into these routines that are basically burning them out. So we know from the strategies we implement into our own experience, but also the people that we work with, that when they start to do this, their body starts to become more vibrant and they live with more vitality. And there's people out there who are doing it, living it, breathing it. But it's so confusing for them because they're wondering which way they go, because there's so much information out there surrounding this area. So it can be confusing for them. And it can sound like, how is this possible? But it truly is. But it takes work. So the people have got to turn up and really be present and really be willing to change. And that's the first part of it, them being willing to change. And if they convince themselves that it's possible, then it is. Anything's possible. So these processes really tap into their true authentic self and really supercharge their energy. And when you say, how do they get home with more energy? It's just part of the process, because their body starts having more vitality. It starts functioning correctly. All of their organs start functioning correctly. They're not reaching for the sugar and the crash at the end of the day. They're getting it at the end of the day, and they're like those people that say, "Oh, I was so busy, I forgot to eat lunch," because they are so energized and they're so focused. And that's part of it as well. We do some fasting, intermittent fasting, which we find is really powerful. And there's a lot of information out there about that as well. So it's a collective process that we know long term has huge benefits, not only for the energy during the day, but longevity.
I just can think of so many questions coming off the top of my head right now. So one of the things that we were talking about before this was, mostly people think that if you need to do this kind of journey, you need to start doing, dawn wake ups and getting up at 5 and running 10 miles and then getting a freezing cold bath and things like this. Is that true?
Not entirely, not entirely. There's people who really resonate with that process. But it's what we do is we work specifically with individuals to work in with their schedule. Now, there will be some adjustments that need to be made, of course, because there'll be some habits that they've created that are detrimental, like using digital devices before going to bed right until they go to bed and be surrounded by blue light. So changing that will have a massive impact on how they feel when they wake up. But getting a more set routine. So if someone goes to bed late and wakes up late, but their routine's the same every day, that works, especially if they're creating dark spaces for where they sleep. But if their routine is out of sync and they're going to bed at different times and waking up at different times, that can really play havoc with the circadian rhythms. So we want to find a certain routine that's regular and that has small habit change, 4%, up to 4%. If anyone's read Atomic Habits, James Clear, it's written in there, and there's a lot of studies around humans can only handle 4% of change for habit change. So cold baths or cold showers, absolutely, certainly powerful, especially for inflammation in the body and getting the body back into a powerful state of functioning. We recommend that people put the cold shower therapy or cold ice baths as part of their processes. We do, and we find it to be profound. Wim Hof's made it very aware of the power of the cold, and he's done amazing things with it. So there's enough information there to know if you want to operate in that peak level, then those are little strategies you can implement. But as I said before, it's a collective process of small incremental changes that have profound effects over a compounding period of time. But one of the things that we find is one of the most powerful is really using the breath work as a process to tap into that parasympathetic nervous system and get things functioning on a more powerful level. So over time, people start to see changes and then they want to change more. It's just getting those habit changes started in the beginning, and then they'll want to set better sleep patterns. They'll want to eat more nourishing foods. They'll want to exercise more. They'll want to do more breath work. Because the feelings that come forward and the vitality that they get, it's like, is this really happening? They sometimes sort of start to question it with the breath work. They go, it just seems so easy. How is this working? So yeah, it's an amazing question that you ask, because a lot of people think that it just sounds like woohoo, or it's like, wow, how can this be possible? I've been living like this for so long and I've changed so many things and it hasn't worked. But it does work. You just got to fit something into your schedule and make it work with your schedule, and that's really where it makes it easy and less resistance, and more likely to be something that they can do consistently over a period of time.
And what's the deal with intermittent fasting?
I love that question. So intermittent fasting, I discovered 8 years ago. And when it first came to us, or when it first became aware in Australia, a lot of people weren't aware of it. It was only really new. And the first introduction was a book called The Renegade Diet. So I got into it, which was typically it's a 16 and 8, so 16 hours of fasting, so 16 hours of no food, and then eating all your food in 8 hours. So for some people, that's like, wow, how can you do that? Like I got to have breakfast, I've got to eat all day, and I've got to eat my 5 meals or 6 meals. And typically, coming from the fitness industry as a personal trainer here in Australia, it was more like eating more meals more frequently, so 6 meals a day. So for me, it was a little bit scary at first as well, but the research I did, everything I do, I research first, because I want to see some facts and some science around it. And so there was plenty of that. So I wanted to look at what's a sustainable program that I can implement as a busy business owner into my day and have the effects of, one, maintaining an amazing physique and and looking awesome naked, so to speak, because that's what people want. And so, but it was more having good, amazing energy and fitting it in with a busy day. So I looked at the intermittent fasting, and there was so many people out there in the elite game and the performance game, and actors, Hugh Jackman, the Wolverine, he was doing the 16 and 8. So I implemented it straight away. I did like an 8-week challenge, and I got my body in one of the best shapes I've ever been in. But I did it easily because I kind of was like so busy. I was happy to not eat till 12 o'clock in the day and finish my last meal at 8 o'clock at night, because then I had all this productivity during the day, in the morning through. But then I also found that at first it was difficult because I was used to eating those morning meals. But after about a week or so, I kind of forgot about it because I was so busy with work, and I was like, oh, this is becoming easier and easier. The tricky part was eating all the food in 8 hours, but that became easier and easier as well because my body started to adapt. But what I found was through my research that my growth hormone and testosterone levels were improved, and I was working out fasted. So it can improve by up to 200% when you're fasted. So working out when I was fasted was giving me more ability to grow lean muscle. It was giving me, my body was starting to use, and it was focusing around ketosis type eating. So my body was starting to use body fat as energy. So I had more mental clarity. So we started to use that same strategy. So 8 years later, now it's everywhere, and everyone's getting into fasts and finding that it's really profound and wanting to know more about it because they're hearing all these stories about mental clarity and having more focus, more productivity. So 8 years later, now I do 1 meal a day typically. So we call it OMAD. So I'll eat my food basically once a day, which will be around sort of 6 o'clock at night, and I'll finish eating somewhere around sort of 7:38. I go to bed around 10:30. So I've got all that productivity during the day where I get so much done and I have so much mental clarity. And where I say the energy is higher at the end of the day from when I started, because I'm in a fasted state. Once you get past that sort of hunger stage where your body starts to tap into its body fat for fuel, it really supercharges. Your energy goes through the roof once your body adapts to it. So your energy in the afternoon is like really high. And so that's why working out in a fasted state is hugely beneficial. Just think about this for people listening. What happens when you eat a big meal? Typically you become tired because your body is using so much energy to digest the food. So that's happening all day when people are eating all day. And so there's little wonder they're reaching for chocolate or coffee or any of those sugar items to pick them up because their body's worn out from digesting food all day. So once people start to implement it, they start to really feel, after their body's adapted, that their energy goes through the roof and they get more done. They got more focus. They've got more certainty and calmness because food also, depending on what you're putting in your body, has a hormonal effect. So that affects emotional states. So we find that people come on it, they perform at a higher level because they've got so much energy throughout the day when they're in a fasted state. But not only that, they burn body fat. So they start to look amazing. They start to feel amazing. And then they just promote it to everybody and say, this fasting is really working. Moving on from that, we do longer fasts as well. So we do 5-day fasts every quarter, which is just water and salt. And we move into a 5-day fast 2 days. So we've got 2 days to go. We're doing a 21-day. My wife and I are doing 21 days, no coffee, no alcohol. And then we're moving into on Saturday here in Australia, we'll start a 5-day fast. The first day I'll do dry. And then the rest of the 4 days will be just water.
What?
Crazy, hey?
I mean, like, I like my food and I like my routine. I mean, I do have to say, like, I agree with the fact that when you have a big meal, you spend a lot of time digesting, you get really tired. But like, how do you work up to a 5-day fast?
Yeah, it takes a bit of it's a bit of a process to it, and there's definitely some pre-work that needs to be done. It's not something that we recommend anyone to just jump into. There's a lot of research and a lot of doctors that I follow that have done the science on this. So yeah, you really got to. It's I've done it before where I've carb loaded, which is eating a heap of carbs and everything before a fast, and jumped in, and I don't recommend that to anybody. And that really tested me out. So you've really got to be prepared and do smaller fasts first. Start off with maybe 12 to 16 hour fasts, and then move to 20 hours per day, and then maybe do a 24-hour. And then you can work up to like a 2-day or a 3-day. But the magic happens with a 5-day fast in the 4th and 5th day with a process called autophagy. So autophagy is where the body goes in and eats. Basically, it's all the bad parts, all the bad mitochondria, and goes in and it goes into the digestive system and does its magic in there with the digestive system and any aches and pains, inflammation. So yeah, it's phenomenal what it does for the body. But that's something that we work our clients up to, that who are open to doing it, because it's not for everybody. But for those who do it, the studies out there are suggesting, based on doctors and scientists, that doing 1 5-day fast a year can reduce the risk of cancer by up to 95%. So that being said, well, we're like, well, why wouldn't you do it if that's the benefits to it? But of course, you've got to be guided by your general practitioner or your doctor, and first of all, consult with them before you do any of these type of fasts. But yeah, they can be profound on longevity in your life for your health. And there's guys out there like Ben Greenfield's Fitness, if anyone's him, American guy, he does 5-day fast protocols. There's Dr. Pompa, Dr. Jason Fung. There's lots of advocates out there, Dom D'Agostino. There's so many people out there who are promoting these fasts and how profound they are based on science.
The reason I'm so interested as well is I was speaking to a forensic scientist about this last week, and she was saying that they did some testing on rats, and when the rats, the rat that didn't fast and the rat that fasted, the one that did fast had better cell division than the other one that had messier cell division, and the one that fasted looked younger and its body was younger. And I was like, wow, but it seems such a shift to kind of, because my first question was, can I intermittent fast and include the sleeping time in it? Because so I don't miss too much food. But it seems like such a big lifestyle change. I think, do you have to kind of work up to it and maybe put your breakfast back a bit and then pull your dinner in a bit and then work it like that?
Yeah. So breakfast, breaking a fast. So if we separate the word breakfast, it's break fast. So that doesn't mean it has to be in the morning. That was driven by cereal companies. So where breakfast is the most important meal of the day, have this amazing breakfast cereal in a box. And so that's where that stemmed from. Wake up in the morning and have your breakfast cereal straight away. But it's typically not. It's just breaking your fast. So that doesn't mean you have to have it first thing in the morning. In fact, it's going to be more powerful to have it later and let your body set its process for the day and wake up and go through its routine of coming into the life experience as an awake being, and then eating food when it's required for energy and for survival. So it's basically the saying is, I eat to live, not live to eat. And it's about not eating less. So if you love food, fantastic. It doesn't mean you're sacrificing not eating food, because it's not about eating less. It's about eating less often. Dr. Pompa says this. It's not about eating less. It's about eating less often. So we want to minimize our eating windows to give our body the ability to do what it needs to do. And this has come from primal times. This has come from ancient times where food wasn't readily available. So they had to go and catch their food. And they'll do that in a fasted state. They'd need to live off berries on the land and vegetables on the land. It'll be seasonal as well. So their body would be eating seasonal foods rather than eating those foods all year round. And so that worked. And so come into food pyramid times and from the 80s onwards, things changed. This obesity and a lot of the health issues we have today is stemmed from basically eating too much food too often. So can you still have amazing foods? Absolutely. I love food. I absolutely love food, especially in Australia. We have so many different options for different cuisines, and we have lots of different cultures. So it gives us exposure to so many different things. So it means I still get to have the amazing foods, but I just do it strategically to have the most benefit on my performance. And that means that I eat in after fasted periods, and longer fasts are amazing. When we come out of longer fast, we introduce food carefully because it can have an effect on our body, and that's not great. And so we focus on strategically bringing food back in. But once you're in the habit of just sort of like a 16 and 8, well, yeah, you can be fasted through your sleep period and then wake up, go to work, do a workout, because it's really powerful to do the workout and use your body fat as fuel to burn body fat during the day, and then break your fast somewhere around 12 o'clock. And then from 12 onwards, between 12 and 8 p.m. at night, that's your eating window. So as long as in that eating window, we're not filling it with junk food and detrimental foods and packaged foods and things that aren't going to help us. Well, if you're going to eat clean foods and nourishing foods and be strategic about it, and it means you can still, if you eat meat or chicken or whatever, you can still have that. Or if you, on the weekends, if you still want to have a treat meal, which we say is important to do, you still got to have the fruits of life, you still can. So it's basically just reprogramming and readjusting your routine to get you to a powerful state, more energy, and living more vitality.
What is green juice, and is that a good thing to have? I've heard a lot about green juice.
Yeah. So what's your take on green juice? Is there something specifically someone said in the green juice?
Well, it looks like it comes in a powder form from Amazon.
Yeah.
And I'm a bit like,
Yeah.
is this good for me?
Yeah, sure. So depending on what's in that one, I'm not sure which one you're talking about, but if it's like a super greens, then basically our vegetables are believed to be depleted somewhat from farming and soil depletion and a long list of reasons. But basically the potency of our fruit and vegetables has diminished. So people then move to a supplement of the super greens, which will have spirulina and a different mix of greens. Look, there's a lot of research out there that show that can be beneficial, especially if we're not getting enough content for our food, enough energy content, and enough vitamins and minerals for our foods. So it can definitely be beneficial. Is it imperative? Absolutely not. If you're getting plenty of good, possibly organic foods and foods that aren't heavily farmed or grown at home, or so look, there's benefits behind getting it through your food. But if that's not possible, and people do live busy lives, we know that, we work with these people, then there's those options to add certain supplements. Look, like I spoke to you earlier, I'm having my mushroom chai MCT tea now, which is full of, packed with nutrients from mushrooms. So there's lots of supplements I implement as methods to hack my performance, my brain function, my cognitive function. So there's lots of different things out there. And we've tested and measured a lot of these things, and also got a lot of the information working with other people, that we know that the supplements that we implement are strategic to get the performance at a high level. So there is ones out there, and people get confused which ones to take. We've cut that work out and found the things that can be really profound, but not everything works for everybody. So it's working with the individual to find what works for them to make sure that they're getting the results.
So now that I've grilled you about food, which of the techniques do you use to kind of create this journey for people and to get them into a, energized, powerful place?
Yeah, so the most profound one for me as an individual is certainly the breath work. And that's something that's becoming more and more known. It's something that wasn't known for some time. It was sort of seen as a bit woohoo there for some years, but Wim Hof and James Nestor, through the book Breathe, has done really well to bring awareness to the world about the power of breath work. So getting into breath work, as I said earlier, gets us out of our sympathetic nervous system into our parasympathetic if we're using deeper, longer, slower breathing. And so that's one of the most powerful and most profound components that we use. A lot of people are stressed, are holding on to certain emotions, and that creates shallow breathing, and they're breathing too much. So they're in an overactive state of sympathetic fight or flight response. So getting them back into that calmer response straight away, we know definitely gets people into a state of calmness, which removes the tendency to have addictive behaviors, removes a tendency to go for poor choices of nutrition to make themselves feel better. So if we can get them back, their body's starting to function better by using the breath, straight away, a lot of the rest of the processes fall into line because there's a lower resistance. Because fight or flight is going to have instant gratification, it's going to have emotional states that are unstable, and it's going to have addictive tendencies. So if people got themselves into a state where they're drinking to numb themselves at night, and they're wanting to get away from that, then we find that the breath work helps get away from that. Is it magic? Does it work straight away? No, the person's got to put in the effort and the work, but we do know it's profound because it gets them back into that calmness state. It gets them back into that state where decision-making is a lot more powerful and a lot more centered and present with them, rather than just reach for it and just do it because it's a behavior that's been formed. Same with food, same with any habits that have been created. So the breath work's certainly powerful, but also we find that just even simple journaling and gratitude. So those who have got the most gratitude get more of the same. So whatever we focus on expands. Whatever we are talking about most, we bring into our experience. So we find that when people become more grateful for what they already have, they get more of that and get more of what they're grateful for. So there's simple methods just like that, just to touch on a few, that begin the process of getting the people back into that higher peak state of living. And so exercise is a component, mobility. A lot of people are locked up and sitting in chairs all day where their body's not really in the flow state. So there's quite a few components that bring it together, but it's just piece by piece, habit by habit change. And it's getting the support and getting the accountability to stick to the plan. Because a lot of people say, yeah, I'm going to start it. And then 2-3 days in, it's all fallen over. So there's a process with that as well that gets them out of this shame and guilt process that they fall into, where they think, oh, I never get anything done, or I never achieve any of these plans. I start so many different diets. And none of this is a quick fix. It's a lifestyle change. So yeah, it's working with them and keeping them accountable. And we have some processes in around that. I do a lot of work in around Dr. John Demartini. So I'm a trained facilitator of his. And so we've got processes of his method that we use to tap into their mind and get them to reinforce the new behaviors.
And since you said accountability and these kind of incremental changes, you've actually got, by the time this podcast comes out, a new challenge coming up. Do you want to tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, so yeah, fantastic. Thanks for mentioning that. So yeah, there's going to be an opportunity for individuals who want to know more about this. They're not sure. They've tried lots of different things, but they want to jump in and see what some of these methods can do for them. So there's a 10-day, it's basically a habit shift program. It's a challenge for 10 days where we can work with them, each of the individuals that come into the program, and work on an area that they want to change in their life. And so it will be removing a bad habit or a habit that's, we don't like to say good or bad, but we want to remove a habit that they perceive is detrimental to where they are at now, and implement a new habit or habits to get them to shift and move on to a new direction. And that'll give them an opportunity to see what this work can do. And it'll also give them an opportunity to see what we have to offer the world and how we're serving the world with what we do. And moving forward, they may want to continue to be a part of our community and grow more. What it does is not only helps the individual, but it has a huge impact on their life and the people they connect with. So depending on what they're doing, if they've got multiple people who work for them or they work with multiple people, this can have a ripple effect on them and the community and their family and their loved ones. So yeah, it's a powerful program that can really, look, it's not a quick fix. It's just a taster of what we have to offer. So that will be taken off in May.
Fantastic. Well, as I'm aware that it's about 6:30 a.m. for you and it's 9 o'clock at night for me, I'd just like to give you the opportunity to tell everybody where they can find you on the internet.
Yeah, sure. There'll be links there attached. So go straight to our website. And there's a discovery call spot if you'd like to talk to me more about any of the things we've spoken about today. It's a complimentary discovery call, so anyone can jump on and get to have a chat with me and ask any questions that may be there. And it's just an opportunity for us to get to know each other and find some opportunity to build trust there between us too, because it's always important to know that you're comfortable moving forward working with someone. It's the same in the fitness industry. When you're working with clients, they need to be comfortable who they're working with. So yeah, it's an opportunity. So jump on if you want to find out more, if you want to have a chat to me about any of the things we've spoken about. And that's a complimentary call. So go to our website there at Peak State.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much for letting me grill you today, Peter. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thanks for being a guest.
I appreciate your time and thank you for having me on.